Oh, hello, 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 my little math owlets. I hope all is fine and well with you this wonderful day. And I'd like for you to get out your thinking caps because guess what we're going to learn about? We're going to learn about imaginary numbers. Yes, I know that might sound a little bit out of the realm of your regular day math, but well, it is what it is. And I'd like for you to get those thinking caps out because it probably isn't in your normal schedule during the day to learn an entirely new number system. And that's what imaginary numbers are. So we're going to lay a few ground rules. And yes, there are rules when talking about imaginary things. I want you to meet Mr. I. This here is I, and he is written in lowercase cursive or script writing like that, and he works like a variable when writing him in an equation or a function of that sort. Alright, now we're going to learn maybe the most important thing that you could know about I, and that's I's value. I is equal to, drum roll please, bump bump ba bum, the square root of -1. Yes, I know, before you start yelling at your computer screens, I know that you can't have the square root of a negative number because any number times itself, even a number that's negative, like -3 over here, is still equal to a positive number, but not when we're talking about imaginary numbers, so please bear with me and follow along if you would. The next thing we want to know about I is the value if we square I. Yes, I to the second power. Well, I'm going to tell you right away that that is -1. Why? Well, let's learn why over here. I squared is equal to -1 because I is equal to the square root of -1. So if we square that, we're just plugging in square root of -1 for I over here. If we square the value, we're going to be left with -1 because squaring is going to undo Mr. Radical. That's why I squared is equal to -1. And the fourth thing we want to learn about Mr. I today, that's going to be, you probably guessed it, the value of I cubed. Why do we want to know the value of I cubed? Well, you'll see here in just a little bit. I cubed is going to be equal to -I. Yeah, I know it's freaky, but we're going to figure out why over here. Well, we can break down an exponent, right? Because we know that anytime we're multiplying exponents together, you add the exponents to get what number you originally raised to whatever power you were raising it to. I know that's basically just a roundabout way of trying to tell you that I cubed can be written as I squared times I to the first. And would you look at that? We already know what I squared is, right? So we're just going to plug the known value for I squared in. That's -1 because we found out over here. And we're going to multiply that times I to the first, or just I. And we're going to be left with, obviously, -I. So that's right, I cubed is only equal to -I. Now we're going to learn the most fun part of I to the fourth. And like I just said, I to the fourth is fun, and it's also our favorite, so please don't tell the other powers of I that I fourth is our favorite, but you're going to figure out why I to the fourth is so much fun right over here. Just like we did with I to the third, we're going to break down I to the fourth. And we're going to break it down into I squared times I squared. And obviously we already know the value of I squared. It's just -1. So we're going to plug that value in for both I squareds here. And we're going to be left with I to the fourth is equal to -1 times -1. And the negative times the negative is what? What? Can you tell me? Oh, it's a positive. So -1 times -1 is equal to positive 1. That's right, I to the fourth is equal to positive 1, and that's why we love him so much, because he is so very simple. Now that is all the rules you need to know for I for now, because all the other powers of I can be broken down into these simple powers over here. I to the first, I squared, I cubed, and I to the fourth. And we will get into breaking higher exponents of I down into these simpler ones in our next lesson of simplifying complex numbers. So now you know the basic rules of imaginary numbers, and you're well on your way to being an imaginary number aficionado. And if I could get this to write, I would write you our hashtag message of now you know. Bye, folks.